Cents Per Mile, featuring Charles Gracie and Paul Gibson, with loads of recruiting and marketing experience and backed by the largest driver audience in the world. We deliver carriers the driver perspective, find solutions, and help make sense make sense.
Thank you for tuning in to Cents Per Mile. I'm your host, Charles Gracie.
And I'm your co-host, Paul Gibson. What are we talking about today, Charles?
Tech. Like, and you know, like, what's good tech? What's bad tech? What do you throw out the window? You know, that kind of tech, like trucking tech.
Okay. So like actual tech, not just like, worry about autonomous trucks, you know, that kind of like actual tech that people are using, like what is fluff and what is like legit, because everybody, you know, wants to have the latest cool gadgets and keep up with the Joneses, but like what is actually practical, especially in a market where you got to watch what you're spending.
Well, exactly. There's tech that could either help you save money or make money, but if it's not doing one of those two things, then it's probably about as useful as a flip phone in today's age.
Yep. Well, before we do that, we got to do the same thing we do every week. So if you could, we are on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. We are on YouTube. We're basically everywhere you get your podcasts. So if you could go like, subscribe, or rate, gets us some more momentum so we can do some cool stuff like when we go to the Star Stripes and White Line Truck Show later this year.
Yeah, but we got F3 before that.
Yep. And the Broker Carrier Summit.
Yes, sir. There's a lot of good stuff we're going to, and it all is thanks to you guys. And, you know, you can also go to centspermilepodcast.com. You can suggest events, topics to be a guest, or even to be a sponsor.
Yep. Sponsor. Speaking of sponsor, who's our sponsor today, Charles?
Starting from loading to unloading and maintaining the highest standards in terms of safety while in transit. They take nothing to chance. That's right. We're talking about Mesilla Valley Transportation. Check them out at m-v-t.com.
Yep. All right. Well, it's time for the news, and it's not super depressing or political this week. All right, so it's time for 10-2 News, where we look at some of the coolest stories from the last week or so, or the most interesting, or the most relevant, or just whatever we really want to look at. So our first story today from CDLLife is the ATA calls again for enforcement surge to crack down on underqualified truck drivers, saying some things like, meet the high standards of professionalism and safety our industry expects and the law demands. You know, going on basically saying that, like, especially with that illegal U-turn that happened somewhat recently that caused, you know, a terrible situation, they're saying that they need to crack down on how qualified drivers are entering the industry and making sure that drivers are qualified to drive. The people who drove the driver shortage narrative, who went out of their way and push the puppy mills and like, oh, we got to get all the drivers in here we can.
You're going down the wrong path. You're missing opportunities. All right. Listen, the ATA issued this statement, and, you know, go check it out on CDLLife. But specifically, I'm looking at paragraph 3 and 4 regarding this. They put in there, and it was just absolutely wrong of them. But actually, America doesn't lack people who seek a CDL. What they lack are qualified drivers who meet today's high standards of professionalism and safety that the industry expects and the law demands. All right, they've created this whole broken system. Then, I get it, but then the most important part, they were ignorant enough to define what qualified means. Right now, up until this point, it was loosely interpreted and up to interpretation. Qualified means you can speak English, read road signs, understand safety rules, respect the laws. Qualified means that you're not abusing alcohol or drugs. Qualified means you earned your CDL the right way. I'd love to see them go down what's the right way, because if you're going to tell me one of your pre-approved puppy mills, I beg to differ. I mean, all of this is a result of pushing a lower barrier to entry year over year over year, a race to the bottom. And now what's happening, and I've talked to a lot of people about this, Paul, a lot of the states are no longer aligned with that messaging. Well, guess where the nationals get their money? Oh, yeah, you want to get someone's attention? Hit them in the wallet. They're feeling the pain. Their narrative sucks. Everyone knows it's bullshit. And they're being called out across the board on it.
For sure. And I hadn't got to yet. I think they do point it out. because they name drop, but for sure, like it's really interesting that all of a sudden, their messaging lines up with Duffy really good. It's like, oh, who do we got to be to stay relevant here and get what we want?
Well, like just go back in time and undo all the crap you messed up, and that's a great starting point, ATA.
Right. Well, the funny thing is, like, it's interesting that, like, when Duffy came out with this plan, most of the stuff in that plan specifically was opposed to their stances.
It's one of those things. I just simply don't understand why the sudden change in heart now. And then when you start seeing the double speak, you're like, oh, okay, cool. They're getting back to politics. They're no longer taking a stance. Our stance is we don't have an opinion because we don't know what we're talking about.
It's 100% politics, and it's like, oh, you change your tune when the room changes. Cool. All right. Well, our next story.
The room changed, by the way. Late to the game as always, ATA.
Even Buttigieg, regardless of how you feel about the Buttigieg, even made a couple moves that were still like, I don't know. They've been on the wrong side of a lot of things for a long time. All right. So this next one, speaking of tech, Washington State launches predictive system to help truckers find parking along I-5 corridor up to 4 hours in advance. So basically, like, you up to 4 hours in advance can get an idea of like what rest stops will be open. And they actually went, and it looks like they used the University of Washington Star Lab to launch that. So that's what it's supposed to be, the first of its kind predictive information to truck drivers on parking availability up to 4 hours down the road. Yep. That's pretty interesting. That seems like some useful tech if it works.
Yeah, they partnered with the University of Washington Star Lab. They launched this TPIMS. By end of September of this year, the information will be available for, they listed off, it looks like a little over a little over a dozen actually locations. It's pretty cool stuff. I'm all about innovation, and if it works, it works.
And I feel like them calling it Star Lab, I feel like they're a bunch of comic book nerds, and comic book nerds usually get it right. Personal experience.
Yeah. So moving on.
All right. Well, at that point, it is time to go behind the desk with Tenstreet.
Do you want to grow your fleet but get buried by paperwork, slow hiring processes, and outdated systems, all while struggling to comply with changing safety regulations? Enter Tenstreet, the all-in-one platform that simplifies driver lifecycle management by bringing marketing, recruiting, onboarding, safety, and retention together in one place. Tenstreet coordinates and streamlines all your operations. Post to dozens of job boards at once. Speed time to hire with pre-population and AI to get more full applications faster. And manage the entire post-hire process, from cutting costs with online onboarding to integrating all safety data into one dashboard, to improving retention through thoughtful engagement. Whether you have one truck or 1,000, our expert team is here to help. Sleep soundly knowing you can pass an audit, attract needed drivers, and achieve your business goals. Join the thousands of carriers using Tenstreet. Sign up for a demo today.
Mesilla Valley Transportation, founded by truck drivers for truck drivers. Why choose MVT? Well, it's simple.
I started off as a driver. Now I'm managing routes. With MVT, the sky's the limit.
Balance is key. State-of-the-art equipment, a strong focus on safety, and a family-driven company culture where respect and hard work are at the core. Mesilla Valley Transportation, where we care about you. Join our family today.
All right. Now it's time to make sense. And when we're talking technology, when we're talking what works and what doesn't, well, then we have to talk GLCS and Nate Johnson. I mean, this is what they do all the time. Integrations, technology, advice, and, listen, I can't nerd out by myself with Paul on this because I'm good at breaking stuff, but he's building it. So welcome back to the show, Nate.
I also think we just established that you're not nerdy. But as
I don't know. I don't know. He's a pretty epic nerd. He just doesn't like to fly the flag that much. So
yeah, or
No, there's got to be at least one cool kid in the room.
I've seen the flag. It comes out. So
I've been on the phone calls where the understanding was being searched for. That's a nice way to say it. Yeah, but so Nate, just for the layman, so basically what you guys do, correct me if I'm wrong, basically you help companies who need to get something done, need to solidify a process, something like that. And you basically go find the tech that they need to make it happen and then help them implement it.
it's one of the things that we do. Yeah. If you have a technology problem in transportation logistics, we're going to help you solve it, manage it, support it, any and all things. So
In any limitation?
in any limitation.
I told you I like to break stuff. The wheels are turning here.
So we work with the biggest companies out there, and we're trying to get down to the smallest companies we can. So currently, 30 truck fleets, 10, 15 person brokerages, small dedicated operations, small shippers. We're having a tough time getting smaller than that, but we'd still love the phone calls and pop us questions on social media. We love to handle them as well. But so we're all over the place. Large problems, small problems. Even big problems for small organizations. They're all different answers.
And I love that. I think that's huge. I think the support part of that is awesome. As someone who might support, like a one-man team sometimes when they go out there that way, and then they're like, what should I get to do this? And then you tell them what to get. And then as soon as they get it, they call you and they're like, how do I use this?
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of companies that'll.
That's how, Paul, I wasn't going to call you out on how our conversations go. I wanted people to think you were smart.
Yeah. Okay.
To Paul's point, though, there's a lot of companies out there that will tell you what to do, but then that's where it ends, right? So we'll tell you what our opinion is, and it's supported by a lot of people who have been in the industry for a lot of years. And so we'll tell you what we think you should do, and then we'll take that to the next step. If you want us to, we'll help you get there. We'll help you go the whole way to implement whatever solution you've picked. And then we'll take that another step and we'll help you support that as well. So, we're not just there to say, hey, this is what's wrong, you need to fix it. We'll actually sit there and fix it with you.
Well, and I think that's unique, especially when people are looking for partners when they're venturing into something that they're not necessarily familiarized with, or making an investment in tech, channeling the experience of people that not only worked with that tech directly, but also worked with other people implementing it. That brings a value that's not often found in those situations, and helps bring a security blanket, into the situation as well, because that could be intimidating.
Well, it's absolutely intimidating. It's hard. I mean, moving freight. I mean, Charles, you used to run a trucking company. I used to run a trucking company. Moving freight is hard enough as it is. And then you add in all of the complexities of technology that, 30 years ago, it wasn't that hard. 15 years ago, we started this ramp of technology that just became wild, and it has not slowed down. It's not going to slow down. So having a partner that is out there just studying the industry and the technology that's supporting the industry to ensure that, hey, this is the best fit for your organization, or one of the best fits for your organization. And then, taking out all that time that it takes to study those potential vendors, ensuring that it's the best fit. There might be 3 or 4, but there's probably 40 out there that could potentially fit your organization. And it may not be the obvious one that you might think it is. So, just having that partner is a big deal today.
So, and I think that's, that's a huge part of both of the business that each of us had started, like Charles with Hot Seat. Like, it was the idea, like, he had been a driver, he had been a recruiter. So it's like you have someone helping you with recruiting and marketing who's done it. Me making videos, I had marketed at a trucking company and recruited. So, like, I knew it was there. So that's huge. Is there anything particular that you see lately that people are like obsessed with tech wise that you don't think is necessary for most people?
Well, that's not necessary.
But everyone wants that narrows it down to the fad of the year.
So I think when you look at the AI term has been widely dispersed, and that's I think a lot of us measure our conversation these days, but how many times we're saying AI.
Yeah, I mean, I measure its worth as worthless if they say it more than twice in a conversation.
And so there's a lot of organizations that move through how much can we automate, how much can we implement AI, and there's great value in that. However, as a smaller company, as a mid-market or small company that has not adopted AI, you have a lot of work that you need to do before you can just jump into that pool. There's a lot of value that can happen, and a lot of people have said AI is not coming for your job. Well, guess what? It is. So we've seen it happen.
Especially if you're in coding.
If you're in coding, if you're in a large
Videography, video editing,
sure. If you're doing a back office role,
people that don't know how to have their cameras working while recording.
any sort of repetitive, that person,
That's weird.
great W right now. So
It's coming for his job first.
but the any repetitive job that's out there, you need to embrace the AI tech because you can manage the AI tech. So, but that being said, many companies are biting off more than they can chew. So, adopt a small portion of AI. Don't adopt this huge technology that you're probably going to fail in implementing. Most companies fail. I think it's like 80 or 90% of AI projects fail. And that's because you're simply just tackling more than you possibly should. So the amount of infrastructure that's required to support most large AI initiatives is huge. So you have to have clean data, you have to have clean processes, you have to have all this stuff that trucking companies and brokers don't have, right? So we see lots of things that come forward, and you get grinders. That's the one thing that we do in this industry really well is we grind. We love to put our head against the wall and just smash. So
Even when it doesn't make sense.
right. So this tech we really want. So we're going to smash our head against the wall for 3 years to make it work. And eventually we make it work. But we could have done that a lot smarter by taking incremental change and cleaning up data and doing things the right way. So I see a lot of that happening where, hey, we bought this stuff and it's just not going to work. And lots of times the solution gets blamed or the people at the solution get blamed when in reality of it was you didn't have your requirements right. You didn't have your staffing right to be able to even tackle the project in the first place. You have a staff of 100 people that are at 95% capacity, and now you're going to throw in this huge culture change project, and you have no bandwidth internally to handle it at all. So, regardless of the technology that's out there, you have massive failure that's happening just in implementation across the board. It is getting better, though. We've seen it get better over the last 5 years with adoption. Throughout the industry, I think companies are looking at things saying we have to adopt these things or we're going to effectively become irrelevant.
Be extinct.
Yeah. You look at Atri's reports here in the 2024 report on the cost of trucking, and how have we reduced or how have we maintained maintenance costs? How have we been able to operate in an environment where revenue has stayed the same, yet costs have gone up significantly with the trucks and driver pay?
Solutions too.
Right. So, solutions have gone up, but value of the solutions have. I mean, you look at an optimization product.
Well, revenue stayed the same. Cost have gone up. Now everyone's like, well, I got to do something to balance it out. Okay, I have to enlist a solution. The solution has a startup cost, has an ongoing running cost. So that's another layer. So unless that solution's bringing dramatic savings or dramatic earnings, and I think that's where people struggle. Like, what solutions do you enlist that are going to contribute to helping your bottom line? Because that's what it's all about. To survive in this market, you have to either save me money or make me money. And if you're not doing one of those two things at enough to cover your cost and that margin that sucks right now, I'm probably having a worse time.
Right. And there's a few solutions, or at least I'm not going to call it the specific solutions, because I think there's a variety of them that fall into those categories. There's no like easy button here. So, but because the answer changes based upon the size of your organization too.
Could you get me an easy button and help me implement it?
Sure, but that's not going to work.
No, but do you think a lot of people, especially with coming after a lot of this like more current technology and stuff, it's kind of like on the consumer side, for instance, like you spend a bunch of money to get the latest technology, but then like while you're ahead of the curve, the first iteration's never as good as what it's going to be, and it's always going to be dramatically more expensive at the beginning. So like Bluetooth, for instance, if you hopped on like the early Bluetooth, like that was super expensive, it cut out all the time. But if you like really put into that now, if you have it like built into your house or something like that, it's terrible and you need to upgrade it. Like, how often do you see people trying to like put that money in when they should wait?
All the time. But if you don't have people put those money, so on the enterprise level, if you don't have people carry that cost, if you don't have the big fleets bridging that gap and bringing forth the solutions, then you don't get the benefit of it. So let's go. I want to answer one question eventually, so we'll come back to what are solutions that you should be looking at and what are solutions that you probably should avoid. But I want to go down that exact answer. So let's talk about autonomous vehicles. So sounds like a horrible technology to go out and just jump into, right? It's very expensive. Being an autonomous vehicle company right now is very expensive. Good way to go out of business if you look strategically. But if you look at the technology that comes out of autonomous vehicles, we've got some interesting stuff that's popping out of it. It's sort of, I equate it to kind of NASA, right? If we're not going to innovate, you're not going to get things that are going to come out. And we don't necessarily always know what is going to have an impact in the industry or not until we put it out in the industry. So if you're going to wait for the industry to tell you what it needs, you're probably not always going to get the best solution. So in some cases, you have to tell the industry what you think it needs. And those are probably going to be the best solutions. They're also going to be the best failures. So you're going to get one or the other, right? You're not going to always have the biggest win. You're going to have but you are going to get the biggest win out of that. You're going to get some things that are going to be absolutely amazing. And then you're going to get some things that are absolute stinkers. So, but you're not going to know it until you have it. And so you look at like the mirrorless vehicles. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Haven't driven one myself. I'm a former driver myself. I don't know. I would say it's going to take some getting used to.
Yeah, your peripherals suffer.
Yeah, I would imagine I would wig out on it, but I can also tell you in 10 years, I can see how that can become evolved. I can see how that can grow. So it probably is not the best. So to your answer of, is it the best thing to start with? It's probably not wonderful today, but 10 years from now, you're going to probably have a 360-degree view around that truck like you have no other. Backup cameras, if Charles, I know what kind of truck you have. I know what kind of truck I have. So, but I know that 360 and the backup camera, I can say I can live without it because, I'm a former driver and I can back up really well, but I'm watching the camera when I'm back up. I've got 360-degree view. I feel safe by using the camera. I know that I don't have a gap.
Oh, I don't. I don't feel safe. I've augmented my vehicle enough to hate technology.
So, well, you've jacked up yours. I'm still OEM, so but I'm still pretty big truck. But
That is an interesting point, though, on that. Like that, I think that's one of the. And as soon as you were describing that stuff, that's something that actually raises a little concern. You got technology being implemented in OEM style. It comes out the factory and it works the way intended. But a lot of things in trucking or even in our personal vehicles go outside the OEM. Like I did something simple. I put a light bar on my bumper and it rendered my vehicle technology inert. That light bar blocked one sensor. And because it blocked that one sensor, I lost my cruise control. I lost my 360 view. Because the truck got jacked up, it needed special calibration pads to be set around it that no OEM shop had. Like it was a cluster of just issues. So I wonder if that's something that trucking, because with these trucks, there's a lot of add-on stuff. So over time, I wonder if that's something people are keeping in mind is like trucking historically winds up getting a lot of aftermarket work and stuff. What happens when this technology doesn't work outside of the OEM settings?
that'll all come up over time. It all takes time.
So plethora of dumpster fires is what I'm saying.
I mean, you go into pre-Bluetooth, plug and play, right? Going back to when I was in school, when I worked for Best Buy.
I played Oregon Trail on a floppy disk in school, so we're from the same era, my guy.
I had a tape adapter.
Okay. So my first computer was an Apple IIe. So I had the Commodore 64 too. So, but anyway, going back to plug and play, it wasn't plug and play. It was plug and throw away. You had, but we evolved, and now the plug and play pretty much works. You plug stuff in, and it lots. I mean, 999 times out of 1,000, whatever you plug into a system, at least sitting at your desk at home, typically will function if it's a modern thing plugging into a modern thing.
As long as you're not buying a Hover Air Max Pro drone.
Fair, edgy, but
So what happens when you don't listen to the people that you ask about what tech you should get?
well, at this point, if you're not listening to Paul when it comes to tech, then that's your own problem.
All right. I wasn't going to go there. I asked Paul, and Paul's like, yeah, man, it looks solid, and that thing is worthless.
I was like, I said that's not what I would get, and I don't really, but if you saw someone use it and you like it, then get it. But I told you what to get.
That is not what happened.
Okay, well, actually, here, let's settle this, Nate. Let's take a quick break right now, Nate. So you help people. It's kind of almost not to knock into your customers, but it kind of almost reminds me of back in our younger days when you'd have to help older people, set the timers on their VCRs, right? So you help people with technology, you get them set up with technology that you can implement to help them be their best selves, right? Apple or Android?
I gotta go with Apple.
Yeah, cool. Love that.
Who's your favorite host on this show?
I'm not answering that question.
Wow.
Depends on the day.
He'd airdrop you the results, but
yeah, I'm going to qualify the Apple Android thing though a little bit. I think it depends on the user. So I think it depends on. I like certain things about Android. I use Apple because I've been using Apple since day one, and if I got rid of Apple, it would probably cost me thousands of dollars.
It's okay, Nate. All of us Android users forgive you.
Fair enough. And I like my blue messages.
Those blue texts, man, it's a thing.
So fair enough.
But anyway, back to that. I just wanted to toss that out there.
So, Nate, when we're talking technology, there is a lot that it can help people with, and that can't be argued. But there's also a lot of stuff out there that people believe they need. They need it right now. They got to be on the forefront of the innovation, and they complicate a one-car funeral. Something that's simple, they try to implement extra steps to make it more complicated in the effort to make it more simple. How do you, when you're consulting with people about wanting to implement tech, how do you decide hey, what you're doing is pretty cool, but you don't need to go at this far. You're going to complicate it. You're going to spend money in an area. I mean, I imagine that comes up because I do consulting, and there's a lot of times people want to complicate something simple.
Largely understanding what you currently have and where you want to go. So what are you doing today? What do you want to do tomorrow? So that's that.
And the cost amount in the middle.
Well, first off, don't worry about budget, right? What are you doing today? What do you want to do tomorrow? And then have someone who understands the playing field determine, okay, this is where you want to go, but let's add more flavor on that and say, this is what's possible above and beyond that. Or that's not possible. That's not really possible. There's, you're talking James Bond level stuff or science fiction. But let's do that reality check of what the target is, and then build requirements to make that fit. And then you get that return on investment from those requirements. So you go through that is there a return by doing this? So, but that kind of leans into what I was wanting to talk about earlier is you have solutions that are going to, and you had mentioned this, Charles, you have solutions that potentially are going to make you more money or at least increase your utilization and make you more money. There's very few solutions that you're going to buy, or there's almost no solution that you're going to buy that's going to suddenly just make you more money. You can't buy software and then all of a sudden it's going to start making you money. Although, with AI, maybe it'll start calling customers. Who knows? That's potentially coming down. I mean, in theory, that could happen, but reality of it is, a solution is going to make you more efficient, and therefore you're going to potentially create opportunities that allow you to make more money. So that would be, along the lines of optimization, revenue optimization. So you're then going to also have solutions that are going to optimize your efficiencies. So your people who are doing repetitive tasks, they've been around forever. They're getting juiced right now with new technologies. So with AI, they're getting juiced up and they're becoming faster, stronger, better. So we're seeing a lot of great things there. So lots of workflow, lots of integrations, lots of capabilities along those lines, and there's significant cost reduction there. Where possible. But the first thing that we're going to look at is how do we optimize and create more opportunity to create revenue and make smart decisions around that revenue. So we want, if you can have trucks making more money, then let's do that. And let's do that smartly. There's no way you can save yourself, unless you're a really poorly run operation. If you can raise your revenue by 10% a mile, or 20 cents a mile even, and increase utilization by 5 or 10%, it's going to be very difficult to cut expenses to equate to that. And assuming you're not going to have to increase your expenses to support that outside of the solution you're putting into place. So
I love that. So it's kind of almost like the tech will always be the tech is a solution, but the solution is a tool. It's not just like a all-in-one encompassing solution, because otherwise everybody would buy that tech and then they would all be doing just as good as you.
And not all tech is made the same, right? So.
People are having the same experience.
But real quick, because we're about out of time, Nate, if anyone wanted to get a hold of you and nerd out more, or obviously use your services, where would they get a hold of you?
Sure. You can catch me on LinkedIn, Nate Johnson, njohnson@glcs.net. Really just any social media platform you can find me. I'm typically Freight, F-R-8, N-A-T-E, Freight Nate, Freight Movement. So freightmovement.com, F-R-8, MVMT. We got lots of events going on there. So reach out to me and I'll be happy to chat further.
Well, that was a wrap. I mean, we unloaded a lot there. Hopefully it helps you in deciding what direction you want to go and at what level of comfort you have embracing technology and helping optimize your operation. I mean, the name of the game in today's market, Paul, is make money or save money. If you can't be doing one of those two things, you're probably not having a great time. Tech can help with a lot of this, but we have to understand it, and you have to align yourself with people who understand it where you don't.
Yeah, and I mean, time is also a thing too. Time is money. And I think if it makes you more efficient, it makes you more efficient. But ultimately, it is a tool. It is not an end-all, be-all. And the people who work for you are still important.
Well, speaking of time, we're out of time. Thanks for tuning in to Cents Per Mile. I'm your host, Charles Gracie.
And I'm your co-host, Paul Gibson. See you next time.